We're in the first chapter of Nazir. I don't know what the English translation of Nazir is. So we just say Nazir. We just use the Hebrew word. But we explain that if you're a Nazir, there are really three things you don't do. You don't cut your hair. You don't consume grapes or wine, and you don't touch dead things. And we mentioned, by the way, that this doesn't apply to Samson. We're going to find out about Samson today. And we said that these halachot, these laws are learned out from the beginning of Nazir. There are 10 verses at the beginning of Nazir which explain all the halakha of the Nazir, all the laws of the Nazir. If we jump into the second Mishnah, if we jump into the second Mishnah, we're going to find out about Samson. But let's start with the Mishnah itself. Behold, I am from grape seeds. So he doesn't mention Nazir, by the way. And we learned already in the first Mishnah, and the Rambam explains this in the Mishneh Torah, that someone who wants to become a Nazir and just expresses some general intent is considered to have taken the vow. So the Psukim say you have to clearly take the vow, but the Rambam says, gosh, as long as you have the right, you have that intention, your language can be very general. And we learned that there are lots of nicknames for Nazir, which seem to be equally effective. So we said, Kol Kinuye Nazirut Kanizirot, all the nicknames for Nazirut are like Nazirut. And someone can say, for example, I shall be, and there'll be a Nazir, or I shall be pretty, or they can use Nazik, or Naziach, or Paziach. They can use all these nicknames. And so in the second Mishnah, we hear about someone who says, Hare ani mina sanim. Behold, I am from grape seeds. Or maybe he says, Umin hazagim, or from great skins. Or he says, min hatiglachat, from shaving. Or he says, amin hatuma, from uncleanness. So he just mentions the prohibitions. And he's considered to be a Nazir. Hare ze Nazir, v'chol diktukei Nazirut alav. And all the regulations of Naziriteship apply to him. So even if, for example, he's just mentioned grape skins or shaving or uncleanness, he still takes on all three. But, there's always but. If he says, Hare ani Nazir k'Shimshon, if he says, I'll be a Nazir like Shimshon, like Samson, or Kaven Manoah, like the son of Manoah, Samson was the son of Manoah, or Kaval Delilah, like the husband of Delilah, that's Samson as well, or for me, Sheikir Dal Tot Aza, someone who uprooted the doors of Gaza. This is Samson in the temple, just when these are his final act in the temple. Kamishani krufli shtimet einav, the person whose eyes the Philistines put out. These are all scriptures of Samson. Harezeh Nazir Shimshon. So let's have a look. So what is it about Shimshon? Well, let's have a look at the story of Shimshon. Vahi ish echad mitzorah mimishpachat hadani. There was a certain man of Tzorah from the family of Dan. And his name was Manoach, and his wife was barren. And the angel appears to her and says, "You're going to have a child." But then the angel mentions three particular prohibitions. Ve'ata hishamana. Please watch yourself. Don't drink wine. Don't drink wine. He's not allowed to drink wine even in the womb. And don't eat anything that's unclean. You're going to have a son, and no razor will come on his head. So we mention these three prohibitions: drinking no wine, not eating any unclean thing. This is we're not talking about touching here, we're talking about eating. And no razor shall come on his head. The child is never going to have a haircut. And we're going to learn that we know just from the text that Samson was not prevented from touching dead bodies because he's a fighter. He clearly touches dead bodies. So that particular prohibition out of the three doesn't apply to him. But the prohibition on grapes and on hair does apply to him. The Mishnah asks, Ma bei Nazir Olam Nazir Shimshon. So what is there between a Nazir like Samson and a life Nazir? A Nazir Olam is a life Nazir. And the Mishnah seems to know that a regular Nazir, and we'll learn about this next week, a regular Nazir is a Nazir for 30 days. But you could swear to be a Nazir for life. So Avshalom, for example, the son of David, was a Nazir for life. And the Mishnah wants to explore the difference between someone like Shimshon, who clearly was a Nazir for the whole of his life, and the life Nazir, the Nazir Olam that the Gemara wants to speak about. And it's going to explain Nazir Olam and life Nazir. If his hair becomes heavy, Mekel Batar, he can thin it off with a razor. Mevi Shalosh Bemot, and he brings 3 animal sacrifices. But if he should be unclean, but if he becomes unclean, he doesn't bring a korban tuma. Nazir Shimshon, the Nazir like Samson, if his hair becomes heavy, he's not allowed to thin it. Samson is never allowed to cut his hair. And if he's unclean, he doesn't offer the sacrifice for uncleanness. Now, I think there's a problem in the text here, and the Kaufman says but most printed text has mevi korban tuma. I think the einor seems to be an error here, because the essential difference between the life Nazir and the Nazir like Shimshon is that the life Nazir does have to bring the sacrifice for uncleanness, and Samson does not. But we'll explore this. We'll come back to this next week when we explore these in more detail. Let me just stop recording there and then open it up for questions.